How could I possibly be expected to handle work on a day like this? Oh, yeah, okay, right. Hi, this video is sponsored by JLC PCB, who make all my PCBs. If you're looking for some top quality PCBs with a fast turnaround time, then I highly recommend them. I can produce PCBs with track widths down to 0.2mm, fingers, cutouts, supporting BGAs, and a whole lot of other esoteric things. If you want to get a list of all their capabilities, then check the description below. They are currently offering 10 PCBs for only $2 with a 24-hour turnaround time. So go and check them out. Was that good? Hi everyone, thought I'd give you a little mini channel update. I've had a lot of issues in the last week. So I had a major storm front come through and cause absolute carnage, not just within my area, but sort of the greater Sydney area. There's a lot of damage, a lot of trees felled, cars totaled. Fortunately my house survived and no one was injured. In fact, I think within this storm no one was killed at all. Which is fantastic. But unfortunately I was without power for 4 days, no internet, only very minimal internet, so I didn't get to publish my weekly roundup, but I did have a video on standby, so that was good. Unfortunately it's thrown the whole schedule out the window. There was another video I was planning for last weekend, which was around the topic of how fast can you design, manufacture, assemble and put up for sale on Tindy. The goal was to be able to get that done within a week. Unfortunately, with storms and everything else, the supply chain was just all over the place. But I could have made it. It was almost there. I'll still run that video probably the following week. And then don't forget, there's also the annual Christmas tree game, which seems to get bigger and better every year. So anyway, the mailbag video I had to shoot in a different location, so the audio is not as good, but anyway, let's just run with it. And because I had 4 days of cutting trees down, I've got a new opener. Nice. So let's open the first package. Hey, this is really blunt. What the heck? Must be all the trees I chopped down with it. Okay, so I made an order of a whole lot of friendly arm SBCs. A lot of the SBCs I hadn't actually done a review on. So I got the NanoPi Neo 4, NanoPi 2 Geo 2, and of course IoT box. So I ordered NanoPi Duo 2, NanoPi Duo 2 IoT box. Actually, I got two NanoPi Duo 2s because the intent was to give one of them away in a competition, and a NanoPi Neo 4 heatsink for NanoPi Neo 4, and I also got a NanoPi M4 heatsink because I didn't actually get one for the original M4, and I've still got to do that review. Some cam modules because I was lacking cam modules, and also heat sinks for the NanoPi Duo 2 and something else. I don't know what that was for. I think it was for one of the other SBCs I had. I can't remember what it is. So that's good. So the NanoPi IoT box. This is actually a 2G hat, I guess you'd call it. Largely useless for Australia, but I thought it might be useful for someone else around the world. So the NanoPi Duo fits into that. Let's get one of these Duos. So this is the NanoPi Duo, which is an H3, all-winner H3. It has all the bells and whistles. It's very similar to the Duo. So this hat will enable GSM 2G and also GPS. So, and it's got a breakout for a whole lot of Grove connectors, I think they are. So USB ports and Ethernet as well. So the NanoPi Duo 2 is a nice little board. It's got an all-winner H3 on it, 512 meg RAM, micro SD slot on the back. What else? It's got a camera interface for an OV5640, I think it is. A whole lot of expansion headers, 32 I think. Nice little module. So it's a little bit of a step up from the previous version. So the NanoPi Neo 4 is a nice little board. Oh man, this is more rain. Would you believe it? It's going to be a bit noisy with all this thunderstorm coming on, but I'm just going to persevere, I think. NanoPi Neo 4. This is probably the smallest RK3399 SBC on the market. It's a really nice little board. I mean, look at this. How much smaller can you get? It's a nice board. I quite like that design of having the sock underneath. I know a number of you have said that it's not a good idea, but I think it's actually a fairly good idea to have it underneath. It exposes the GPIOs and a lot more options on top. The heatsink attaches on underneath like this, and it makes it a nice little compact unit. Of course, you need a fair amount of heatsink mass to be able to cope with this RK3399 sock. So hexa-core processor, 1 gig DDR3 RAM. It has an eMMC socket, video, HDMI 2.0, USB 3.0 ports, and USB Type-C power, which is really nice. You can't get away with anything else these days. SD slot, and guaranteed I'll be doing a nice review on this little SBC. I suspect I'll be working over the Christmas break to make up for all this lost time due to bad weather. Okay, so the thunderstorm's still going, but I think I might power on through this. So I ordered a whole bunch of cables from eBay, just some patching cables I needed. Just for some reason I keep running out. Was it male to male, and male to female, female to female, male, female, I don't know, whatever it is. A whole bunch anyway. So I got about 400, I think it was, because you can never have too many patch cables. That was a pretty quick one. Next. So this came from Poiter, who runs 1Bit Squared, who recently put a campaign up for the iCeBreaker. I am looking forward to this. This is absolutely fantastic. He's given me a little RGB panel. I've run several videos on RGB panels, and I've got a bunch of them too. This is actually a slightly smaller it looks like, what is it, 2mm pitch. Whereas I ran a video on running a RGB panel off a Docker container driven off a Raspberry Pi, and driving an RGB panel using an FPGA is the bee's knees. So this is the iCeBreaker module that he's currently running a campaign on, and it's really nice little neat board. And he's given me an LED module. So these are PMOD connectors, and it's a little LED display, 7 segment switches, and so this is the RGB driver for this LED matrix. Nice. I really need to fire this one up and get this going. Now I had to reshoot a large portion of my mailbag because the audio was just so horrible. Fortunately, I didn't actually end up building this because the third storm that came through. So I'll build it up now when it's all nice and quiet and the audio is so much better. Since he's given me a nice little RGB display, I think I need to look at controlling this. So it's actually a nice little board, and he's aiming it at the education market, which is nice. It breaks out pretty much every GPIO, I think, possibly, that the ICE40 is capable of. So anyway, let's solder up these headers. And there we go. Now all I need to do is download all the software and look at programming up basic Hello World first, and then I'll get stuck into the RGB interface. Now if you look at the 1Bit Squared crowdfunding website, you'll find that there's a whole lot of demos and examples, a couple from Micah Scott. So downloading the software is pretty easy. You just need to go to this GitHub page and just download it. Once you've got it downloaded, you've got to install a few extra build chain tools, and then just load up an example. This was actually designed for another FPGA, but it's fairly easy just to convert it over. So there you go, that's the little LED blinky example, which blinks the red and the green. So bear in mind my experience with FPGAs is pretty minimal. I'm quite used to CPLDs, PALs, and GALs, but FPGAs I haven't had a heck of a lot of experience with. So this is new territory for me, and so let's get into some more complex examples. Nice. So this is a 1-bit adder, with the red being the sum and the green being the carry. For all those people who don't know anything about FPGAs, this is all done in silicon, so there's no code essentially running on it. So I've been playing around with it, and it's very easy just to download the iStorm software and a bunch of examples. It's really as easy as the Arduino IDE. So anyway, let's fire up this RGB LED matrix display. So I found a nice little demo that allow me to play video over USB streamed straight onto the RGB panel. So if you're running Ubuntu and you install Yosis from the standard apt-get Ubuntu packages, you'll find that that's pretty old. So if you're getting this particular error, then you'll definitely need to install the version from the Yosis website. So if you're ever installing all the FPGA tools on Linux, you can't really rely on Ubuntu and Debian versions of all the FPGA tools because they're slightly wrong, or the wrong versions. The easiest way was to do a git clone and build everything from source, from scratch, and that way I had everything all at the correct versions. And there we go. It's a pretty cool little demonstration. So all this is being done on the FPGA, all in hardware, no software at all. So it's really cool. So that's yet another demo. It's a pattern generator, which is really fast. I mean, that's lightning fast. You would expect it for pure silicon. So let's try a video out. So I just spoke to Poiter on Twitter, and he mentioned that there's a small jumper I need to make to be able to stream video live. So let's do that now. Okay, so I had to make a very minor adjustment to the PCB, because this PCB is version 1.0b. The one he's selling on Crowd Supply is 1.0c. So it's just a small jumper that I had to sort of connect up. Let's try out some streaming video now. So there we go, streaming video straight from USB. You have to encode it, of course, into RAW format. But you can do that on the fly with FFmpeg without any problems. That looks pretty good. Of course, scaling down from 1080p down to 64 by 64 doesn't really give you much resolution. So I just had to crop the image a little bit. That's pretty good though. So thanks Poiter very much for giving me the opportunity to review this. I actually also backed the crowdfunding campaign for a bunch of these modules. So if you're thinking of getting into FPGAs, grab one of these boards because they're really nice. Lots of examples, lots of documentation, and it's a really simple process to be able to design your own FPGA and burn that to the iCeBreaker. It's really nice. So what else do we have? Then we have this. Now this was part of a video I was going to run, which was how fast can you design, send off for manufacture, build a simple board and put up on Tindy for sale. Unfortunately, of course, due to the storm, I didn't actually manage to get that all happening, but I'll still run the video. I can inspire someone else to see if they can beat my record. of doing it in a week or a little bit over a week. So I ordered from JLC PCB a whole bunch of PCBs, components from LCSC, and also a stencil as well. The whole kit and caboodle that you need to make up the PCBs. So these PCBs are very simple. The intent is that you can attach a Raspberry Pi 0W and it provides power with a DC buck converter. It has option to power the Pi directly from 5 volts or via 5 volts this end or via LiPo. So there's a LiPo battery connector underneath, and the intent was to be able to hang this off a Christmas tree. You'll be able to drive your Christmas tree lights with a WS2812 output on this side being driven directly to the LED strip. So completely battery powered RGB LED Christmas light strip. So it's a fairly small form factor, fits within the Raspberry Pi 0W. So that's the PCB. I made up 90 of those. And these are all the components from LCSC. There's certain components that they didn't have. Essentially all the jelly bean components. Jelly bean components are things like resistors, capacitors. They had a lot of those jelly bean components, which is quite good because MLCCs are very hard to come by, or starting to be hard to come by these days. So they had everything else except for the buck converter and the LiPo battery charger. These are all the sum components that are required for 90 PCBs. It's cut tape, so my original intent was to be able to add this into a pick and place machine, because 90 PCBs is quite hard to make by yourself manually. They probably will fit into a pick and place machine without too much trouble. They'll be very short, but that's okay. So I had hoped to have these up and running before Christmas, but unfortunately with storms and power outages and a whole lot of other things, I just never got there. So I'll still make these up and put them up on Tindy, so if people want to try it out, run RGB LED strips from a Raspberry Pi, they can. So as you can see, I panelized. There was enough space, so this within the 100mm by 100mm, so I could actually panelize 3 of them onto that. This makes it infinitely easier when you're running a pick and place machine, because you can actually build out 3 at a time essentially. You can see how JLC PCB actually panelize. So this would be one person's order, this would be another person's order over here, this would be another person's order, this would be another one over here. So you can see all the different orders that people have been placing, and on this side as well you can see this whole side down here would have been one order, around here would have been another one, and so forth. And this time I got a framed stencil, because a framed stencil doesn't really cost that much extra really. And as you can see, there's 2 sides. There's the top side and the underside. Probably end up not using the underside because I solder that by hand afterwards. So that's nice. A nice large frame stencil. It's probably a little bit bigger than I would actually use. I'd probably actually go for a slightly smaller stencil. But this can actually fit into a stencil machine where, man, that was a large lightning strike. And you just plonk it down, scrape the solder paste over it, lift it up, take the boards off, and you keep going like that. Anyway, I better stop because I think I'm probably due to get a lightning strike any second. And I probably should turn everything off before it completely blows up.
Hi everyone!
So this weekend's video is going to be a different one because I've had a bit of a slight problem.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit slight problem.
A little bit.
So it's got a tree down at the moment, and I've got a major gum tree. Unfortunately, the shipping container at the front saved the day, but my car is completely total. It's underneath that mess over there. And we've got another storm coming through.
And that tree is bent
fantastic.
over and it looks like it's about to tip.
Yeah, and so the tree up there, there's yet another gum tree up there. It's bad lighting, I know. We've got another gum tree up there that's going to be falling down pretty soon.
So, yeah. What can you say?
Oh, not much.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. And it went so quick, like it was sunny and then now all of a sudden we're in the middle of a cyclone.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching and see you next week.
Peace.
Maybe.